What's up guys, my name is Timbo and welcome back to another Destiny video. Destiny 2 has a ton of exotic weapons, at times making it overwhelming to know what loadout to run with. Especially for newer players, it can be daunting to know which exotics to chase, given you can only equip one at a time. Long gone are the days where there was just that one exotic clearly better than all the others. I'm looking at you, Gallowhold. You beautiful, beautiful, beautiful freaking thing that shoots aliens. These days, weapons are a bit more evenly balanced. However, there are still a few that stick out in the pack. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to go over what is, in my opinion, some of the best exotic weapons in Destiny 2, as of October 2019. Before we get into it though, there are some kinda obvious but necessary disclaimers. This is the internet we're dealing with after all. While I am trying to take the community's opinions into account, this is still mostly my list. It's just a matter of fact that there will be weapons you think are really great that won't be appearing on this list. We can talk numbers and statistics all day, but a lot of this comes down to personal preference. Most exotics are pretty good and viable, but some are pretty situational, and I'm not going to list off like 20 weapons in this video. For example, I've heard some people say that they really like Sweet Business now. Personally, it's not really my style, so it won't be on the list. That doesn't mean that it isn't good and you can't put up a good argument as to why it's one of the best weapons in Destiny 2. For that, you can use the comments. Down below, if there's something I missed, make sure to let me know what it is. Not to mention, some weapons are very powerful, but only in certain situations. Just some things to keep in mind before you try to kill me for leaving something out of this video. Also, Izanagi's Burden 100% deserves to be on this list, as it is one of the best weapons in the game, especially in the raid, but Timbo's a scrub and doesn't have it. So keep that in mind as you watch this. I'm going to start with primaries and move my way down. The first of which is the Bad Juju. Bad Juju is a personal favorite of mine, as it's one of the first exotics ever introduced into Destiny ever. When it first came out, it was pretty lackluster, but for the second half of Destiny 1, and since its re-emergence into Destiny 2, it has been a top tier primary weapon. Some people don't like using their exotic slot with a primary. I used to be one of those people, but for the majority of Destiny 2, I've seen it be a more viable option, as many of the exotic heavy weapons just aren't that amazing. What else makes Bad Juju a powerful option? Basically just does a lot of good things. For one thing, a kill with this weapon automatically reloads it, which will be a common theme within this video. Not only does it do that, but killing enemies grants super energy and increased damage. All these things combine to make Bad Juju a killing machine, making it one of the best primaries in the game, in my opinion. Next up is another primary, this time a hand cannon. Cade 6 might have bit the dust, but he continues to live on through the Ace of Spades. Ace of Spades is just really good at being a hand cannon. It's arguably better at being a hand cannon than any other hand cannon in this game. It has a huge magazine, outlaw, firefly, and a perk that adds more range and damage to your shots when you reload after getting a kill. On top of that, Ace of Spades comes with third eye, meaning you'll always be able to see your radar, if you're into that sort of thing. Whether you use it a lot or not, Ace of Spades is an extremely reliable weapon and probably the best hand cannon in Destiny. Moving on is the submachine gun, Huckleberry. Huckleberry kinda came out of nowhere for me, and I think it did for a lot of others as well. It dropped randomly soon after Shadowkeep came out, and I tried it out just because it was a highlight at the time. And soon did I realize how good this thing is. Similarly to Bad Juju, kills with this weapon increase damage and reload the weapon automatically. With SMGs just being so good in general right now, I feel like I've been able to tear through multiple enemies at a time without reloading with this weapon better than any other gun in the game. If you're lucky enough to get the catalyst, then this thing becomes even better than it already is. You might not want to use this at the same time as Recluse, but it is great at mowing down ads. Not to mention, it's just nice to look at. Look at those sights, it's just, beautiful. Going into the secondary or special weapon slot, whatever Bungie calls it these days, is another SMG, Risk Runner. Risk Runner follows that common theme of Bad Juju and Huckleberry, meaning that there are ways to get this thing to do tons of damage and fire infinitely without reloading. Doing so is a little more difficult to get started, but once triggered, no primary or secondary weapon in Destiny puts out as much damage as this thing. This weapon is probably the easiest to get, not counting just simple RNG luck. Risk Runner is all about both taking and receiving arc damage. Taking a little bit of damage from arc sources shields you for a few seconds, gives you practically endless ammo, and chains powerful lightning all over the place. Depending on the types of enemies you're facing, this may prove to be a little bit challenging to trigger at times, but once you've got it going, Risk Runner pumps out some serious damage. Coming from the easiest weapon on the list is the hardest weapon to get on the list, that being the new raid exotic, Divinity. Divinity is the raid exotic, meaning that you'll have to beat the raid at least once to get it. However, completing the quest relies more on puzzle solving than any amount of gun skill, making it, in my opinion, one of the easier raid exotics to get, at least when I compare it to things such as Touch of Malice and Outbreak Prime from Destiny 1. Divinity is a trace rifle, making it pretty unique on its own. Its perks allow it to create a field that weakens and stuns anything it hits, making it absolutely melt powerful enemies and bosses with the help of your teammates. Not to mention, holding the beam over an enemy will also deliver periodic bursts of damage. Divinity is in some ways a support weapon, but it's also really powerful on its own. If you can do the raid, I suggest you complete this quest to get it. If you don't have friends, you can always join the Timbo Discord server that's linked in the description to find some groups to play with. And last but not least is a weapon that I don't think many people would typically expect to see in this video, that being one of the first exotics ever seen in Destiny 2, Sunshot. Sunshot is another hand cannon, and while it's probably not as good as Ace of Spades in certain rights, it is a weapon that is extremely underrated. Most people who play Destiny like it when things explode. It's just a fact of nature. Sunshot is basically the I make everything explode gun. Unlike pretty much anything else in the game, it doesn't require headshots to trigger Firefly. Anything you kill with Sunshot blows up, meaning you can wipe out an entire group of enemies with one shot. It also has a good magazine size, fire rate, and range. Not to mention, these days you only need to complete the Red War campaign to get it. And that, my friends, is the list of some of the best exotic weapons in Destiny 2 Shadowkeep. As I said at the beginning of the video, at the end of the day, this is all down to personal preference, meaning that someone else can make an entirely different list. In the comments down below, let me know which exotic is your favorite and why. If you enjoyed the video, leaving me a like is super appreciated. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.